Both the Jaguars and Texans are looking to forget about their Week 3 performances here as they face off together against one another in this Week 4 matchup as Jacksonville is flying to Houston to take on their division rival. Ryan and I, we're going to break down the game, the matchups within the game that you need to watch, and provide our predictions at the very end of the video. But before we get into that, we're trying to get to 100 new subscribers during this Week 4 prediction video series, and any help is greatly appreciated. So if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to the Tracy Take, like this video, and leave a comment. Let us know who you think is going to win this game and why. And so, Ryan, we're recording this Monday night after the Jags-Bills game. To be honest, I didn't even watch the second half at all. I think we saw enough of the first string kind of take place a little bit, kind of get a feel. And I take that back. I lied a little bit. I did see a little bit of the second half. Trevor Lawrence looked better, I think, against the Bills team that was just playing prevent defense. But in general, though, Jacksonville, and to be completely fair, they are dealing with a lot of injuries, especially in the secondary. But offensively, they just don't look good. They definitely look out of sync. And on the flip side, the Texans, I'm much less concerned about, just because it was maybe teams have this where there's a one-off game where it seemed like the whole team really just wasn't very successful against a frankly really good Minnesota team that has been playing extremely well to start off the season. So. I wanted to kick it over to you. What do you think of both of these teams 3 games into the season so far?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm kind of hitting the panic button on the Jags season after this performance. You had a rough loss against Miami in Week 1. They came back and won. Was it 20-17? I believe after you were up 17. And then you had a chance to win a close game against the Browns. Late in the fourth quarter, weren't able to pull it out. And after watching the Browns' other 2 performances, that loss looks a lot worse on your record. And then you had to go into Buffalo and at least put up a respectable performance and just got completely blown out of the water in the first half of that game. And so I think a lot of the problems are starting in the trenches. This defensive line, it looks like they're struggling to stop the run, and this offensive line looks like they're struggling to block in the run game and the pass game. And I do know they're struggling with some injuries on, I believe, both sides of the ball. But I know Anton Harrison left the Bills game with a knee injury and was ruled out relatively quickly. So not a good sign there. But all in all, this is just a whimpering Jags team at the moment. And looking at the Texans, this Texans team, they're still 2-1. I think they just had an off week. They got a little banged up in the game. Not that I feel like those injuries made a huge difference in the outcome, but they might have made a difference in how the outcome looked. And this was also a Vikings team that has caught a lot of people by surprise. They're a lot more talented and playing a lot better, a lot more cohesive than I think people are expecting them to have this so far this year. And so we've seen a couple offenses go up there, San Francisco, Houston, and New York, and go and just get absolutely stunned by how fast and aggressive that this defense is. And offensively, Sam Darnold is playing a lot better. And at a certain point, you can only cover Justin Jefferson so well. They're making plays on the offensive side of the ball, and it's hard to keep up. So it's going to be an interesting matchup here between 2 teams coming off a couple big losses. But I think one of these teams definitely has a lot more ability to punch back right now, and the other one is still, I think, going to be reeling and still a little bit in shock with how their season started.
Yeah, it's definitely desperation time, I think, for the Jags. Well, for the Texans, I think it was they just got bested on the road, and that happens at every team every single year. So kind of transition to this game, though, kind of what to look for within the game. But before we get into that, if you do want to put a couple bucks down on this game or any other game in Week 4, check the link down below. BetUS has a bunch of great promotions going on right now for first-time players. And I think, too, kind of as the week goes on, it's hard for me not to think that the Texans are probably going to be at least 5-point favorites, too, especially as well because the biggest X factor to me is going to be how is this Jag secondary, which is extremely banged up, how are they going to try and stop C.J. Stroud and this Texans receiving core? They got shut out. Well, not shut out. They did score a touchdown, but essentially shut out against a Vikings defense that is significantly better, I think, than we expected and a lot of people had expected outside of Vikings fans. But don't expect that same performance at all from the Jags, especially Jags defense on the road, who just gave up 4 touchdowns to Josh Allen and the Bills offense. And so 4 passing touchdowns, I mean. And so I don't know how they're going to go and navigate that. And then at the same time as well, too, if they're dealing with even more offensive line injuries as well, I think guys like Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter, I think they're just going to pin their ears back. And I think it's going to be another long day for Trevor Lawrence as well. And Trevor Lawrence didn't look good, but it's kind of also one of those things as well is if he's not getting any protection, it's tough for any quarterback to succeed. But that to me, I think is just how are the Jags secondary going to play and try and stop Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell. And then on the flip side, how are the Jags going to protect Trevor Lawrence to where he can at least try to pick apart a Texas defense if he can just have time. So,
yeah.
What are some of the other you're looking to watch out for in this game?
Oh, sorry, you cut out right there.
What are some of the other key factors that you're looking for to watch in this game?
Yeah, I want to see the health of this Jags offensive line. I mentioned Anton Harrison left, and just can they get to a healthy point? And also, this running game, they got so behind in the Bills game so quickly that they kind of had to abandon the running game. And so I think they'll be able to keep more games in check and also help stymie some pass rushes by establishing more of a solid run game early on in this game. And then also Tank Dell left and was questionable to return. And then Joe Mixon left and was questionable to return in the Vikings game for
Joe Mixon. He didn't play in the Vikings game.
Oh! It said he was marked as questionable, coming out of the game. But, so then can Joe Mixon come back and play for the Texans in this matchup? It's just going to be interesting, seeing how these offensive weapons, or how Houston can utilize their offensive weapons with injuries. How do they manage it? They should have enough depth there with Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, Dameon Pierce as well to kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Roll with the punches a little bit. And I just think this Texans offense, kind of to get into predictions, this Texans offense I think is going to probably try to find a new groove here and come in rolling against a Jacksonville defense who's coming off a really bad loss. And I just think the Texans have so much more hope. They're so much more talented on the offensive side of the ball compared to the Jags defense, whereas there's still a lot of talent on the Texans defense. And the Jags are still trying to kind of piece things together in that offensive line. And so I just think it's just going to be another rough game for the Jags. So I'm going with the Texans in this one.
Yeah, I'm looking at this now, too, as just which team do I have more confident to just put on a solid, consistent game, and that's just going to be the Texans. The Jags, unfortunately, they had a good first half against the Miami team, but really since then haven't played good football just overall. And so I thought they were going to be rolling against Miami, and they were for a second. But I think there's definitely a lot of soul searching that needs to go on for this Jags team right now. While for the Texans, every team runs into buzzsaws, as I've mentioned before, where it's just their day. Even too, for the Texans, first play of the game, CJ Stroud throws a pick, and then that was it. And then the next drive they go down and they miss a field goal. So maybe it was just one of those days where it just wasn't working for them, and I think they're going to bounce back from that. Because it's not as big of a bounce back as what the Jags are going to need to try and figure out going 0-3. So I'm also going with Houston as well.
Yeah, so we're both taking the Texans in this matchup. Let's go ahead and wrap this one up here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. It's the best way to help out the channel. If you have not already, or while you're down there, leave a comment on who you think is going to come out ahead. Will it be the Jacksonville Jaguars? Will it be the Houston Texans? Other than that, we'll see you guys next time.